Thank you for waiting for me. There we go. Okay. Can you see if it's recording? Kyle, I don't see the little message. Thank you very much.
It is recording.
Okay, thanks so much.
Yeah.
Okay. So, welcome everyone. We're Kyle Seymour and Ellen Siegel. We're going to facilitate a climate workshop today. Facilitate means we're not doing all the talking. We want to invite you to contribute with questions. Whichever one of us is not talking is going to monitor chat, and you know how to raise your hand. At the bottom of your screen, there's a reaction. If you want to say something, you can also just go like this, and whichever one of us is not talking will call on you. So please feel free to interrupt us. Kyle and I are ambassadors for this very powerful program, and we hope you're going to take away some actions you can support as you work to protect and preserve our precious planet. And I'd like to start with a very quick question for maybe just 2 or 3 of you. What's been something really good for you this week? Something good or even something great that happened for you this week? Really quick. Just go ahead and unmute yourself and share something great. And I don't mind starting because something amazing happened this morning to me. I was a Girl Scout leader like 40 years ago. I was a Girl Scout leader 40 years ago. And one of my Girl Scouts, who's 42 now, called and said she's calling. She hasn't talked to me in decades. She's getting married and she wants me there because being her Girl Scout leader was one of the best memories of her childhood. It's like, oh my God. So, Tanya, why don't you offer us something really good that happened this week? Go ahead and unmute.
Well, I can say that we have a very excellent weekend with our family because we were celebrating the 15 years birthday of my grandson, and we went to Disney and we spent the time with them in a very good way.
Oh, that's phenomenal. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah. Carmen, how about you? You shared your little tiny house. You have to unmute. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, just the fact that I came to Texas, which is my holy ground, and I am here outdoors in this little cottage, and I wish you could see the moon. You know, can you see the moon a little bit?
We see a little, yeah, we can.
Yeah, well, it's getting dark, so probably in a few minutes you will see it better.
Fantastic.
And as of today, I finished a big project that I have been doing, transferring cassette tapes to MP3 system for the talks of the founders of the congregation, the sisters that I'm staying here with. They give me this little cottage. So today was a day of celebration for me, accomplishing this task that I started many years ago.
Fantastic. Thank you.
And now I'm going to have 10 days of retreat on my own with God.
Wow. Okay, we can't top that. If we went around the boxes, you would realize that nobody says, I made a lot of money this week. People will say family or purpose or achievement. So I just want to point out, we know that that's what's important in the world. What are we doing here? I want to give you 10 seconds on why Kyle and I are doing this. I like nature very much. I share with Carmen a love of outdoors and would spend as much time as I could in the Everglades, and I could see my environment dying. And then I learned to scuba dive when I turned 65, and I could watch my coral reefs dying. And I chose not to get depressed. I chose to go into action. And this is what my superpower is. I like to talk and I love people and I like to learn. So I took on climate education and really appreciate Laudato Si saying you're also interested. Kyle, do you want to give us a little bit of who you are and what on earth are you doing here? We should be in services at our synagogue tonight. Why are you here?
So I'm Kyle Seymour. I'm from Jacksonville. I grew up in nature. I love it. It's a big part of my family. I'm getting my second master's at UF now, and heavy focuses on sustainability, and I'm trying to get a job in sustainability. So it's a big passion of mine. I hope to go far in it. So this is a program that I've been practicing, and it's a lot of fun, and it's a lot to learn. So I hope everyone's excited.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, great. Okay. We're going to be using an interactive tool called En-ROADS. It's developed by Climate Interactive and MIT Sloan Sustainability Initiative. And it's created using the best available science, data sources from the International Energy Agency, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. If you are curious and you are energetic, all of the parameters and all of the references and all of their equations are available in a free 400-page reference guide. Just ask Kyle or myself and we'll put you in touch with it. Okay, so what we're doing tonight, we're going to be discussing solutions to the climate crisis. We're going to explore a simulator. We're going to look at the Paris Agreement, which of course was set up in 2015. And the agreement was the world would struggle to bring temperature increase no higher than 2 degrees centigrade, which is the same as about a little bit, roughly 4 degrees Fahrenheit. And if we could get it to 1.5 degrees, we could avoid more of the catastrophes, worse catastrophes. We're already seeing horrible catastrophes. If we don't keep the planet below 1.5 or 2 degrees, it's almost unimaginable. And we're going to be looking at the intersection of climate, equity, and justice. And of course, the Laudato Si is all about that. So that's our agenda for tonight. It's very timely, by the way, because the COP26, the Conference of the Parties, the next IPCC meeting is coming up November 6th to 18th. It's going to be in Egypt. So you may want to be paying attention to that. Okay, so we're going to take a poll in a second. And there's going to be a list of ideas, approaches you think the world should take. So we're going to see what you think would have a big impact. And then Kyle is going to guide us through testing some of these ideas and see why they don't move us towards a cooler planet. So let's see if the poll will actually load. Okay, now if you haven't done this before, there's boxes. So you just pick 3 actions you think would really best cool the planet. Everybody do it. It's anonymous. And then you've got like a minute. So don't overthink it. Just look at the list. What do you think are the top 3 things that would cool the planet if everybody in the world would do them? Okay. And because Kyle and I are hosts, we're not allowed to play. Don't overthink it. Okay, I don't see anything happening, guys. Come on.
I see it now. Okay.
My bad.
I don't see it. I
Okay.
don't see it.
It's on. It's okay. I see it.
David, do you
I don't see it. No, I don't see it.
Let's see. Okay, the people who do see it, try.
It's in the chat.
It's in the chat.
Came out
It's in the
like
chat.
that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll try that.
Is it? That's weird.
Well, it came up. I don't know.
It sort of pops up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't see it in the chat either.
Yeah, I don't see it in the chat. Kyle, do you see it? Oh, okay. Somebody's got it.
I got it.
I think I can only pull up the same thing you can.
Yeah.
I don't see it in the chat.
All right. It doesn't show in the chat, but you know what? Maybe I can copy.
I already sent it.
Yeah, good.
Should
Okay,
we
good.
submit? Should we submit? Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
submit. Yeah, if you've answered it, go ahead and submit. We're going to work
I
with your
already did.
ideas. What? I didn't hear the question.
I already submitted.
Okay, good, good. Okay. Oh, people are getting it. David, still don't see it on your computer.
No, I don't. I'm sorry.
It's weird.
Yeah, I've just got the question and then nothing else has happened.
No box with questions.
No,
Okay. I don't know how to troubleshoot that, so I'll have to figure that out for the next
Hey,
time around.
it's all right. It's all right. Just move on.
Okay, all right. So come on. I'm going to go ahead and share the results with you so that we can go on. So let's see. Our top contender is plant more trees. And then we've got about equal percentages on nuclear energy and carbon dioxide removal technology that's new, and fee on coal, oil, and gas, and bioelectric vehicles. It's interesting how three of them kind of come out even. And then the next closest one is install solar panels. Okay. And okay, thank you. So these are your starting ideas of things you think we should do. And I'm going to cover just a little bit of science I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing the poll. Okay, go away. And I want to cover just a little bit of the science. It's a refresher for those of you who've been in other classes that I've taught with you. But I want to make sure everybody's got the same information going forward as Kyle takes over and works with charts. So what we have here is 800,000 years of history, okay? And when I look sideways, it's because I have 3 screens. I'm not ignoring you. So when you see a low point, we are having an ice age. And when you see a high point, we're having a very warm period. And for 800,000 years, and we know this from tree rings and ice cores and pollen sediments in lakes, carbon dioxide levels have never been above 300 parts per million. That's a very, very little bit of carbon dioxide. And that little bit of carbon dioxide is what keeps our planet from freezing to death from the cold of outer space. But since the Industrial Revolution, which is basically about 1750, we have been increasing carbon dioxide levels. And where we were in July was 421 parts per million. The last time the planet had that much carbon dioxide was 3.5 million years ago, and sea level was 70 feet higher than it is now. Now you'll notice that these are pretty regular, and they're regular in 100,000 year increments. We've done this in less than 200 years. Many of you already know that, but I want you to see the graph so that when you take this conversation to other people, you can share that with them. So we're going to switch colors now. Carbon dioxide is now blue, and you're familiar with our 800,000 years. And the red is temperature. And you'll notice something. I think you'll notice something. Do you notice something? Yeah, I see Pat smiling. Pat, what do you notice? Go ahead and tell me.
What it says there, the global CO2 concentrations are now above 400 parts per million.
Yep. This went way high, but did the temperature follow it? No.
No.
It's very interesting. It's tracked it over the 100,000 year cycles, but we're not up here with the temperature yet. And that's because the ocean is absorbing most of it and the land is absorbing some of it. So don't get thrown off by this chart. This is the last science chart I'm going to show you. The 1.5 line is the temperature that we're almost, we're almost at that. Globally, we're at 1.125 degrees centigrade higher than the temperature was in the Industrial Revolution. So this line is that. The 2 is what the world wants to stay below, And that's our goal. That's where Kyle is going to lead us. We're going to see what do we have to do as a globe, as a collaborative planet.
Se trata de que el clima de nosotros, perdón.
Yeah. Okay. So notice this 3.6 degrees centigrade. It's the same as 6.5 degrees Fahrenheit. That's pretty hot. And we're on track for the end of the century. If business is done as usual, that's where we're going to end up. And we're on track for that. The countries, 197 countries signed the Paris Agreement. 22 of them have done anything towards their nationally determined contributions to reducing carbon. So there's a whole bunch of countries, including ours, that have not done what they said they would do. So that's what we're working with. That's our current situation, our baseline scenario. A concept that you want to bear in mind as Kyle takes you through the simulation is that it's like a bathtub. Emissions are coming in, gigatons of carbon dioxide per year coming in into our atmosphere. Our atmosphere is like a bathtub. It's collecting all of that pollution, and some of it comes out. Plants take some of it, the ocean takes some of it. And there are some technological solutions to taking some of that out. But even if we stopped emissions, even if we turned this off, this water is still in the bathtub. We really have to increase. We have to do two things. Oh, sorry, Kyle. We have got to stop emitting. We have to stop burning coal, oil, and gas, and we have to take carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere. So, all yours, Kyle.
Okay, I'm going to take myself off camera because there's been a little bit of a lag for me.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
let
good.
me know if it's an issue on your end.
Yeah. This sounds a little crackly, but it's good right now.
Okay, you can see my screen.
Very well.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so as Ellen's introduced, we are using En-ROADS. It's a very powerful climate simulator. It helps people learn about and assess the impacts of different approaches to address climate change. You already picked yours through your poll, so we'll be exploring the options that you've chosen. As Ellen said, En-ROADS is powered by the best available research in climate science and solutions. So they're transparent. All the equations and models, assumptions are all open source. They can actually be changed or adjusted based on your own preferences. We won't be doing any of that tonight. And one of the important features of En-ROADS is as comprehensive as possible, but it must be able to run instantly. So every change we make here will pop up and we'll see immediate change. So it makes it really fun to explore solutions because you can see the change immediately. So the purpose of this En-ROADS climate workshop is learning. And of course, learning is building the capacity to take action, effective action, really. So this workshop should help set you up to address climate change and climate-related equity. So we want to build an understanding based on what this model will show us. So I'm going to pull some of our poll. We'll go through it. So these actions are represented in the En-ROADS simulator down here as these sliders. There are 18 in total. They're grouped in several groups. So I'm going to explain the energy supply first because it is one of the most important. So you'll see here listed coal, oil, natural gas. These are our very common fossil fuels. Approach actions such as taxing them, or for renewables, subsidizing them. So that was some of our suggestions in the poll. We also have here bioenergy, nuclear, and non-zero carbon. New zero carbon. That is breakthroughs such as fusion technology. So not as common. And then the most important under energy supply would be carbon price. It's a very powerful tool that often approaches or is often used to approach affecting all the fossil fuels, which can have a powerful impact on the climate. So Beyond that, we have transportation and buildings. The actions there are very similar. So one of the polling options was buying an electric vehicle. So that would be electrifying how we transport ourselves. And that can, of course, be increased, or you can increase the efficiency, of course, to increase your positive impact. Sorry, Zoom keeps getting in my way. Okay. So we also have factors like population and economic growth. Another thing on the poll was afforestation, planting trees. You also have deforestation, reducing how much is happening. And then there are other emissions of the different greenhouse gases and, of course, carbon removal technology. So before we start exploring our poll results, does anyone have any ideas of what might have the highest leverage or the biggest effect?
Are you talking about what's on the screen right now?
So let's see. And we can actually, let me see if I can share the poll results too.
Yeah, Teresa, that's right. The whatever you can see on the screen, you think what would have a big impact?
Yeah, so these represent policies. So this would be taxing coal.
Mhm.
This would be increased electrification of vehicles, so more electric vehicles on the road. This would be reducing deforestation. So there are really 18 main actions that can be taken.
I was under the impression that carbon price was quite important.
Yes, and there are quite a few ways to look at the results here. So of course, as Ellen pointed out in some of our more scientific slides, emissions and the amount of CO2 in our atmosphere are very important to how the temperature of our planet is going to be. So here you can see a sharp decrease as opposed to if we just tax coal. We tax oil, we tax gas. Even then, it isn't the same effect. So carbon price is definitely one of the most high leverage tools. Another way we can explore trying to figure out what has a lot of impacts is looking at things like temperature change. I know in Miami, there's a big interest on flooding. So let me pull up this map. So this is a flood risk map. It shows 2100 with a 1.5 meter storm surge. So that is pretty standard for municipal Miami to be considered a high risk for storm surge. So as we move through the simulator though, and make changes with the carbon price, we see the emissions go down, we see temperature change go down. And if we this, you can see some areas where there is reduced flood risk and some of the blue has receded. So those are some examples of cause and effect in the system. So now I will start going through our poll. So our biggest option was plant more trees. You can see it has a little bit of effect on greenhouse emissions,
Why
but
does
it
take
is
so long?
important.
Why does it take so long, Kyle? It doesn't even move the needle until the end of the century, and it doesn't move it very much. Why is it
Well,
taking so long?
it takes trees time to grow, of course.
Hmm.
So forestation actually happens faster because it's a policy that prevents deforestation immediately. So you can stop trees being cut down immediately, but you can't make trees grow immediately.
Yeah.
But even though it takes longer, you mentioned the bathtub effect. So industry on our planet has pumped so much emissions into our atmosphere. It keeps going up. If we reduce the number of emissions going into the atmosphere, that's great, but they're still there. There's still CO2 at over 400 parts per million. So we have to remove that carbon from our atmosphere. And afforestation, planting trees, is one of our best methods right now. So moving on, now we can work on trying to improve how we get our energy and how we can reduce emissions from that. So we had the suggestion of urging nuclear energy. At the same time, it was also introduced new CO2 removal technologies. That also factors into our bathtub effect. Now, I won't move this one so far because things like new zero carbon and new technology often are unpredictable. It's hard to predict when they'll happen and what kind of effect they'll have. So I like to be a little bit more conservative when I move the actions there.
Because they don't exist yet, is what you're saying?
They don't exist. So, you know, it might be 5 years, it might be 10 years until there's a major breakthrough. When there is a breakthrough, how effective will it be?
Right,
It's hard to predict.
right.
So the next option was law of the government for fees on coal, oil, and gas. We explored that a little bit earlier.
Keep getting to two, getting to two.
Getting there.
So there's a few reasons for that. So obviously emissions are going down. Emissions affect temperature,
Right,
but why are emissions going down? So we can explore that by looking at the emissions, but not just overall, by source.
By source.
So we'll go back to a baseline.
okay, this is good.
This is business as usual, which is the term for there is no change to our system. So this is our total emissions. This is our emissions broken down. It's a little bit hard to see, but the major lines are coal, oil, and gas. You can see coal is the highest. That
Mhm.
means it emits the most amount of emissions by oil and gas. So one important thing is, you know, considering coal has more emissions associated with it, reducing coal would have a higher leverage of change.
2/10 of
So
a degree, 3/10 of a degree. Yeah,
there's another reason for this. So this is the emissions by each source. And this is how much of each source we use. So emissions from coal are the highest density. We also rely on coal the heaviest.
yeah.
So there are two,
Yeah, because it's the cheapest, right?
and that's another thing. Explore. So this, each line is represented the cost of each. So you can see, yeah, coal is actually only beat by wind and solar.
Hmm.
So, but note that change doesn't happen until almost this year. So up until this date, coal has been the cheapest.
Mhm.
That of course means the infrastructure for coal is there. It has to be phased out. And that's why when we make changes, there is always a little bit of a delay before it starts to drop. Because new technology can take a long time, but everything takes time. It takes time just to get policies passed. So let me pull back up our other changes. did not mean to reset the total. Okay, back to where we were. The next one was buying electric vehicles. So if we electrify our transport. So electrifying transport is, of course, electric vehicles. Some people have the question of what is electrifying buildings and industry. That would be just switching away from gas heating and systems like that. So that would actually be kind of involved with our next option, which would be install solar panels.
Right.
We won't
2.3. Oh,
Yeah, and I won't move this as far because solar panels are only one part of electrifying buildings. That's a more complicated process. So what was our final options? So of course, my favorite, lobbying the government for wind and solar. Changing my diet and encouraging less consumerism. A lot of times changing the diet has a good effect on methane, which is a very common greenhouse gas. And then lobbying the government for ban on fracking, which would be affecting oil. So we have changes. You can see the world has changed from relying on fossil fuels. Close to 2040, it switches to renewables. This is because the changes you've chosen have helped drive down the price of renewables and drive up the price of oil.
Okay.
And well, mostly oil, coal and gas. Does anyone have any idea why oil is the most affected?
If you think about where oil is used, you can figure it out. Because your home and your business can be powered from a central grid with solar or wind. But your car, airplanes, ships run on oil.
Big transportation.
It's transportation, not enough batteries. Yet. We're working on, batteries are getting worked on.
So we saw the effect on net emissions. So let's look at what we really care about, our temperature change.
Yeah.
So even with all the things we've done so far, we don't meet even the goal of 2.0. Now, one option we can immediately explore is, instead of targeting each of these individually, as we said earlier, a carbon price has a higher leverage.
Woo!
So that, I think that puts us in our goal. Yes, it does, of 2.0 at least. So the next move would be building upon what we've already done. So we've electrified vehicles. As time goes on, these electric vehicles will become more efficient, continue to electrify buildings, increase our efficiency of those buildings, reduce deforestation, reduce other greenhouse gases, and we can finally meet our goal.
Wow.
So it takes a lot of actions. Of course, climate action is going to take a lot. You have to come at it from a lot of angles. And I love this simulator because it shows that.
Yeah. It's kind of there is no silver bullet. There's just a lot of silver buckshot. And it takes a lot of collaboration around the world. That this is not just US behavior, this is the whole globe. So, but it can be done. It can be done. Okay. Thank you.
To save our scenario.
Oh, good. Thank you.
Okay. And I will stop sharing my screen.
Okay, and I will pick it up again. Thank you. Thank you, Kyle.
Mhm.
A lot to absorb. We know that, but gosh, it's kind of cool. All right. Do you see my slide or my notes?
Yes.
Yes.
You see the slide?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay. Okay, so big breath. You have just saved the world. How does it feel? I'm going to try something called a whiteboard. And, let's use what Zoom has to offer us. And you'll tell me what to write and I will type it on. Except that there we go. The little bar that tells you what to do kind of disappears. Well, okay. Let's just put them in the chat or just raise your hand. How do you feel having gone through this? One word. I'm going to go through the boxes. Let's see. Teresa, I'll start with you.
Hopeful.
Hopeful. Antonio, one word. Okay, we'll come back when you find the button. Aurelio, one word.
Concerned.
Can you say it again, please?
Concerned.
Concerned. Thank you. Yes, concerned. Maria Jose, one word. How are you feeling? Oh, you gotta unmute.
Doubtful.
Doubtful, concerned, hopeful. Alfredo, you want to weigh in here? You gotta hit the button to talk. Okay, doesn't work. David, you want to weigh in?
I would say hopeful as well.
Hopeful as well. Okay, Carmen, we'll end with you.
Lost.
Lost. Okay, do you notice there's a whole range of how we're feeling? And sometimes you feel hopeful and sometimes you feel lost or concerned or doubtful. Absolutely correct. So what surprised you? Just yell it out.
For me, it was seeing how the various things we could change could actually lower our temperature change, and I was not sure that was even possible. So that was something that made me hopeful.
Yeah, thank you. Got it. Someone else, what was a surprise?
For me, it was the fact that we have all this data and how this has been obtained and put together in this model. To me, that was very surprising.
It's a ton of work. They've been at it for, I think, Kyle, is that right? A decade?
Yes, and they update it almost every month.
That's
If
right.
not bi-monthly.
That's right. And this, I know because I'm in school, I know the science they're using because I'm learning it in the classes I've been taking at University of Miami and then again now at University of Florida. A key insight, something that you now understand you didn't understand before. I know David said he didn't realize you could make changes that would be so impactful. Anyone else? Yeah, Tanya.
Yes, what surprised me is the way that we have to approach this climate change, that we are doing a lot of things, but we have to be sure what is going to be the more important to do to keep our commitment. Also, what the word that I had before was commitment. This gives us the idea, and we have to be very we need to have a very strong commitment to be changing what is happening now. And the presentation today is excellent because, you know, you are looking for, we need to be fighting first for the more important, for the actions that are going to be reach more changing the temperature today.
Excellent.
That was my surprise. We have
Excellent.
to select. Yeah.
You're saying amp up your commitment to doing something and sharing what you've learned. And
And
so,
you have to commit now because it takes time to make changes.
yeah,
So we don't commit now, it might be too late.
yeah. So I'd like to share some insights in the interest of time that the program wants us to take away. The first one is it takes more than one seed to plant a garden. You need a lot of different things working together. And the second is, some of you picked up on this, we are able to keep climate change well below 2 degrees, and we can limit it to 1.5. It's possible, even today, as bad as it is, we can still avoid the worst case scenario. We have the technology. So that's the second takeaway. The third one is we must stop burning coal, oil, and gas immediately. We must go to renewables as soon as possible, or cut our personal consumption. And you can do it in very little ways. Personally, I decided I'm no longer going to eat bananas because they come in by airplane or boat, and that uses oil. And I'm going to try and buy food that's local, and I can live without bananas. So it's a small personal change, but we can make those kinds of personal changes. The fourth takeaway is along that line. There's a lot of low leverage actions that address climate change globally, but are not as high a priority as reducing fossil fuel use. And Kyle demonstrated that from our poll. We didn't know that. We were choosing a lot of low leverage things that working together can help, but they're not as useful as reducing fossil fuel use or controlling methane. And we didn't talk about equity. What happens to poor people if we put a price on oil, coal, and gas? Their costs go up. So there is something pending in the United States called the Citizens Climate Lobby, the Energy Income and Dividend Act, and that is collective fee from the oil and gas producers and distributed to all Americans. And the way it is designed, the lower income Americans will have more than enough money to cover the increased cost of gas, oil, and coal. So those are the kind of takeaways you might want to think about. So we played with it. We had a range of feelings. But let's imagine that we actually create the future, really, that we just saw. So I'm going to actually set a timer. They're very fussy about we actually use a timer. I'm going to take a full minute of silence to think about what you would love about being part of a future where we actually fix this problem. So when you've got something to say, go ahead and stick it in the chat. What would you love about being part of this future? Okay. Okay, 1 minute. Gonna post it in the chat. Knowing our populations that are high risk see improvement in their lives. Thank you. What else? Beautiful. Passing a natural inheritance, a good one, to the next generations. Beautiful. One more. To have been an active contributor to improve Mother Earth. Awesome. Okay. Anybody else? To see how other, oh, Pat, right. Other countries have done it. Yes, actually go into action. You would love that, Antonio. Plant trees and change the way transportation is going. Yeah, it'd be really cool. Thank you. Okay. You're not alone. Take it away, Kyle.
Yeah, and a lot of times it feels like this responsibility falls on us. And a lot of times some of the real issues are not individuals, it's corporations and companies and the system that we live in. But companies are doing the right things. Governments are doing the right things. The sliders and inroads do not exist to be created. They are already there. We are already taxing coal, oil, and gas. We are already subsidizing renewables. And that is actually built into the model. So there is hope. Companies like H&M are doubling its energy efficiency. And it's not said here, but clothing takes a lot of water to create, and they're also reducing their water usage. A lot of the largest companies of the world have reduced their emissions by switching to renewables. Apple runs all of their stores, all their retail, and all their offices on 100% solar energy. And then a lot of companies like Microsoft are pledging to reach certain goals, reducing their footprint, removing carbon, trying to offset, climate change any way they can. And like I said, we have the tools. Solar and wind are growing cheaper, even without making any changes to inroads. Those are growing cheaper. Corporations are doing the right thing. Someone mentioned it earlier, countries are doing the right things. People are here today getting educated. So we're all working towards the right goal. We just maybe haven't seen the change we want to see yet.
Yeah. Thank you. So we challenge you. Take the feelings, take the information, talk about it. You know the statistic. 72% of Americans acknowledge this is real. 67% of Americans acknowledge humans caused it. Only 37% of Americans will talk about this. Go ahead and talk about it. Tell your friends, tell your neighbors. You don't have to use the words climate change. You can say, it's getting hotter, or it's getting wetter, or Hurricane Ian scared the poop out of me, and I just really want to do something so storms are not so bad. Here's
Here,
what
move to the next slide.
Yeah.
It's also relevant for this.
Here we go. And here's how we'll close.
If anybody wants to save this big blue ball, if anybody wants to save this big blue ball, if anybody wants to save this big blue ball, 'twould be the Heavenly Father,
Delightful, eh? We're available for questions or comments. We appreciate that you're willing to play the poll game and the answer the question game and share your feeling game. Thank you for that. Carmen, go ahead. You can unmute everybody. If I knew how to do that on the participant screen, I would do that.
I have a couple of quick comments.
Sure.
One, encourage everybody to watch the movie, the documentary, The Letter, about the Laudato Si that came out this week, and it's beautiful. It has been a movie in the, for 2 years in the making. It's very well done. It's called The Letter, and it's about the Laudato Si movement. Watch it there, The Letter. Another comment I want to make is that when we talk about changing, which I am very much for it, changing from, to stop carbon and gas and oil, being in Texas, I would like to get into the conversation also how you address that to so many people who live here in the oil industry. And if we get rid of that, which I'm all for it, what are the alternatives for those thousands of people who are going to lose their livelihood and their jobs and their that's a concern. And
it's a very good question.
I understand another little comment. I came feeling guilty because you get rid of bananas, but I flew from Fort Lauderdale to taking 2 planes. Southwest, well, I usually plant a tree as, I guess, to appease my conscience for what I have damaged there. But Southwest has a program. I bought the ticket and they calculate how much damage I will do with my trip. So they give me an opportunity to donate, to plant so many trees that, will make up for that. I don't know to what extent this is real, but I felt a little better knowing that, okay, I'm contributing this to plant more tree. And I am pretty sure that they are faithful, they are true. So anyway, thank you very much for this.
So that's a lot of questions. So thank you for the movie suggestion, number one. How do you talk to Texans about the oil industry and their livelihood? Is the Inflation Reduction Act has a lot of money for retraining people. And the best thing about solar and wind is it's local. You cannot outsource it. You're not going to import it from China. You can retrain people in high-paying technical jobs. Geothermal is a really great occupation for people who already know how to dig holes and pump water or oil out of the ground. So all you need to do is get a little bit of knowledge about what's in the bill and what people could do to give themselves a better life and not contribute to destroying the planet. So you've got that. Tony, you made a very good point. By the way, this En-ROADS program is available in Spanish. And if you would like, just in Spanish, we can find. So Tanya and Teresa don't have to go through the unbelievable agony of translating all the PowerPoint. We can find you a Spanish-speaking facilitator. So please let us know if you would like this again in Spanish. We can find you an ambassador like Kyle and myself that will do this in Spanish. I think it's translated now into, I want to say 31 languages.
They add them with the monthly updates occasionally. So they've continually added languages.
Yeah, there are, I think, 650 or so ambassadors around the world, which isn't all that much. But collectively, they've talked to thousands and thousands of people. So, okay, and there was one more question. Texans, oil. Oh, how to offset your carbon footprint. You're doing it, Carmen. That's one way to do it. The other way that I do it is I look at my carbon footprint calculator online, I see how much it is, and then I donate money to Sierra Club or Audubon or Friends of the Earth or whichever charity is bugging me for more money at this time. So I also try to offset what I do, but I'm becoming very careful about my shopping and where things come from and what I'm buying and packaging. Some foods I really like come in plastic and I won't buy them anymore. I look for things that are packaged in cardboard. Other questions, other comments?
I would just like to say that, you know, I'm currently visiting my home in Virginia, and I've been up on the Skyline Drive in the Shenandoah National Park and looking out across the beautiful vistas of the Shenandoah Valley. And then there is a signpost on one of those overlooks that says, you know, we understand and try to keep track of the pollution that stops us from seeing the valley clearly as we used to do. And I remember seeing it clearly. And even though I was up there, beautiful weather, lovely times, looking down, yes, the pollution was evident. And I don't know that that's specifically connected to climate change, but I suspect it certainly is to a large degree. And it's just something that when you begin to see things that you have loved and enjoyed from your childhood and in your life, and you see how that is changing, even when it still is beautiful, seeing how it's degrading quickly and how less beautiful it will be for our children and those to follow us is something to me that's very important to work to try to mitigate.
Try to fix. Yeah. Thank you. Other closing comments? You've been a marvelous audience. Go get them. Talk about it. Share what you learned. Sign up for the training. All right.
Ellen, question. Can we have, can you share any of the materials that you showed us today? For example, the interaction game for us to see, you know, have it to be getting more knowledge. Because
yeah, Kyle can put that in chat. It's available free. It's a simulation. You can play with it, and now you know how it works.
Perfect.
Yeah, so you can make your own game with other people. And see,
yes.
What would it take? And you know, we didn't have time in this class. I mean, I've been working on this training for 2 years. I think Kyle's been working on 2 years also. Well, because each of those 18 buttons, you saw how quickly Kyle was moving through them. There's a lot of places you can tweak them. There's just no way to do that in an hour. So, but it's a lot of fun to go in and say, well, all right, what if we didn't make any new coal plants? And what if we retired all the coal plants right now? What would that do? And you can change the settings inside. So, yeah, you can totally play with it.
So the link I just sent will open the web browser to the En-ROADS simulator.
Perfect.
And it will pull up the situation that I pulled for the poll. So you will see the situation where we just reached 2.0. I can share my screen.
Sure.
Thank you very much, Kai.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I hope everyone enjoyed it.
Good. Thank you. All right. Go get them. We'll see you later.
Thank you so much. It was amazing.
Thank you. Always a pleasure.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Very
Have a
helpful.
good evening and a good weekend. Bye-bye.
You too. Thank you both.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for everything. And thank you, God, for the voice that you have given
to Kyle. I enjoyed your voice so much. I got this-
Thank you.
you are blessed. You are blessed with a wonderful voice.
It's true.
It helps. It helps.
I'm glad because I talk to a lot of people. I talk at a lot of people.
See you soon.
Okay, bye-bye.
Okay.
Bye-bye.